I should have walked away when she offered me lemonade. That's where it started, not the attraction, no. That came later. What started there was the trouble. Her name was Marlene. She was my friend Ian's cousin's mom. Whatever that technically makes her to me, it doesn't matter. All I knew was she was older, sharp-eyed, and had this stillness to her. Like someone who doesn't say much because she's already figured out what you are. It was late August, one of those days where the air feels tired. Ian had volunteered me to help fix her porch steps. Something about her doing a lot for the family. Something about me not being useless for once. I didn't argue. I liked working with my hands, and if I'm honest, the idea of spending the afternoon around her house. It didn't sound like punishment. She answered the door barefoot, in a faded linen shirt and jeans that had paint smudged on the thigh. She looked like someone who forgot she was beautiful years ago and didn't care enough to remember. "You the handyman?" she asked, folding her arms like she wasn't sure if she wanted to let me in. "Guess I am today," I said, lifting the toolbox. Her mouth twitched. Not quite a smile. Not quite not one either. She made phone calls in the kitchen while I unscrewed the splintered step, her voice low, firm. Someone complaining to a contractor, maybe. Through the screen door, I caught bits and pieces. "No, I don't need your son. I have someone here already." Something in the way she said that made the skin at the back of my neck tighten. Around 3 p.m., she brought out lemonade, 2 mismatched glasses, sweating in the heat. "Drink, or collapse. Your choice," she said, setting one on the porch rail. "Thanks." I took a sip. Sour, not sweet. She leaned against the post beside me, close but not touching. I tried not to stare at the way the sunlight caught the edge of her collarbone, or how her fingers wrapped the glass, thumb tapping slowly against it. "Your friend's an idiot," she said after a while. I laughed. "Which one?" "Ian. Volunteering you without asking." "Yeah, well, I didn't say no." She looked over at me then, really looked. Her eyes were the kind that made you feel like you'd just said something more honest than you meant to. There was something cautious there too. Something she hadn't decided about me yet. "Why didn't you?" she asked. I shrugged. Didn't have anything better to do. That wasn't the truth. Not really. The truth was, I remembered her from Ian's graduation barbecue. She'd worn a black dress and laughed at some joke I made about mosquito bites. I remembered watching her walk away to get another drink and thinking I wish I was older, or braver, or someone else entirely. At the end of the day, the steps were solid. New pine, clean cuts. She ran her hand along the edge, testing it. I packed up the tools, trying not to notice how quiet it had gotten. "Hey," she said suddenly. Just as I turned to leave, I paused. She was standing in the doorway now, one hand on the frame, her voice low. "Don't act like you didn't feel that too." Her eyes didn't blink. Mine did. Then silence. A breeze passed between us, catching her hair, lifting the corner of her shirt. I didn't answer. Couldn't. But I didn't move either. If it wasn't wrong, why did I look at the floor when I stepped back inside? I told myself I was just bringing the hammer in. I'd left it by the hallway bench. But the truth was, my legs moved before my brain had time to argue. Marlene was in the kitchen again. Same shirt, now unbuttoned at the top. No bra, maybe never was. Her hair was tied up, but uneven, like she'd done it without thinking, then forgot it was even there. The way her back curved over the sink, drying a glass, looked personal. Like I wasn't supposed to see it. "You don't have to be weird now," she said without turning. "I'm not. You're hovering like someone who isn't staying but kind of wants to." I leaned against the wall, arms crossed to hide my shaking hands. "You're just saying that because you know I don't have a ride." She finally turned, glass towel dried and spotless in her hand. "Ian bailed again, huh?" "Shockingly, yeah." I tried a smile. She didn't return it. Instead, she reached into a cabinet, pulled out a bottle of something amber, and poured 2 fingers into a coffee mug. "You drink whiskey?" Only when someone older and mildly terrifying offers. That got a breath out of her, a real one this time, almost a laugh. She handed me the mug, our fingers brushing, and for half a second, neither of us let go. Not fast, not on purpose, just long enough. I wasn't always like this, you know, she said. The kind of woman who flirts with boys who fix her porch. I'm not a boy, I said too fast, too sharp. She looked at me again, slower this time. I could feel her measuring something. Not my age. Something else. I know. And that's when I felt it again. That strange knot in my stomach, like excitement and shame got twisted together too tight. I took a sip. It burned. She sat down at the kitchen table, not inviting, not dismissing. Just there. I stayed leaning against the wall. I didn't trust myself any closer. There were pictures on the fridge, her with Ian's aunt, a couple of kids, maybe a husband. But no ring on her finger now. Just a faint indent where one used to be. Her hands were so still, like she was used to holding things she no longer had. I couldn't stop looking. I left him last fall, she said. Voice quiet, but flat. My husband. I didn't ask why. I didn't have to. You can tell, sometimes, when someone's trying to say something without saying it, that someone forgot her birthday too many years in a row, or spoke more to the TV than to her. I don't date. Not anymore, she added. I don't do this. This? I echoed. She looked up. Whatever this is. Then, she reached over and touched my wrist. Barely. Just 2 fingers, like she was checking for a pulse she wasn't sure was still there. You could stay for dinner, she said. The glass in my hand felt heavy. The silence felt heavier. I almost said yes. I almost said, I've thought about you since that barbecue. I almost said, tell me what you're afraid of, I won't laugh. Instead, I nodded. The thing about dinner is, it felt too quiet to just be dinner. She made pasta, simple, the kind you throw together when you're not trying to impress anyone. And that's exactly why it got to me. It felt like something you make for yourself when no one else is watching. Something intimate but accidental. We didn't talk much. She moved around the kitchen, barefoot still, humming now and then, mostly not looking at me. I watched her shoulders, the way they rolled forward when she leaned over the stove, how she pulled her hair back again and again without noticing it kept falling. I told myself, this is nothing. This is 2 people sharing space. That's all. Then she said, without turning, you have a habit of watching people, don't you? My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. What? You've been studying me all night. Do you do that with everyone? Or just women you're not supposed to think about? I froze. Not because she was wrong, but because it felt like she'd reached into a part of me I hadn't even let myself look at. She sat down across from me, sipping wine, head tilted. I'm sorry, she added softer. That was meaner than I meant it. No, it's fair. I paused. I don't know why I'm still here. Because you don't want to leave, she said, without missing a beat. Then the knock came. 3 short raps, like someone who didn't expect to wait long. She stood immediately. Shit. Her whole body shifted, shoulders tight, voice clipped. She opened the door halfway, blocking most of herself behind it. A man's voice, mid-40s maybe, confident, familiar, too familiar, just checking in. Thought I saw your car. It was her ex. I knew without needing an introduction. The way her tone changed told me everything. Polite but short, friendly but exhausted. I'm fine, Chris. Just making dinner. Alone. There was a pause. I thought maybe she wouldn't answer, but she didn't lie. No, she glanced over her shoulder. At me. He didn't push it, but I could hear it, the way his voice dipped lower, turned casual like a threat wearing cologne. Well, glad to know you're entertaining again. He left. She shut the door harder than necessary. Didn't look at me for a full minute. Just stood there, hand still on the doorknob. Then she laughed, low and dry, not happy. God, I forgot how exhausting it is. Hiding. Hiding what? I asked. She turned, finally. Her eyes met mine. Tired, sad, and something else. Something reckless. Things I want but can't have. That did something to me. Not just in my chest. Everywhere. I stood slowly. She didn't move. Say something, she said. But her voice cracked. Barely a whisper. I stepped closer. Not close enough to touch, but close enough to feel the heat off her skin. I think about kissing you more than I should, I said. That's something. Her breath hitched, but she didn't move away. She backed into the kitchen like she'd touched something hot. I stayed where I was, heart loud enough I could hear it in my ears. Neither of us spoke. Then she exhaled, hard, and set her wine glass down too fast. It clinked against the counter, nearly tipped. She caught it with one hand, then gripped the edge of the sink with both like she needed to hold herself still. You shouldn't say things like that, she said without turning. Even if you mean them. I don't say things I don't mean. She laughed, bitter. That's worse. Outside, the street lamp flickered on. Inside, everything stilled except for the hum of the fridge and the shallow rise and fall of her breathing. Do you know what people would think? She asked, quieter now. I didn't answer. Do you even know what I think? Her voice cracked slightly. I'm not built for this. You're 23. I stepped closer. So, she spun around, face flushed. So I've done this already. The big feelings, the mess, the age where everything feels like it's life or death. I know how this ends. You grow up. I just get older. I didn't mean to raise my voice, but it came out sharper than I planned. You don't know how this ends. Oh, don't I? No, I said, because you're scared. Not of what people think. Not of the age thing. You're scared because you feel it too. The silence that followed was thick. She didn't deny it. That was the worst part. Instead, she turned back to the sink, fingers gripping the edges tighter than before. I shouldn't want this, she said softly. But you do. I shouldn't, she repeated. She was shaking now just slightly, like a string pulled too tight. Then, without warning, she whispered, Do you think about it too? After you leave? Every night. Her hand slowly released the counter. She reached for her wine, took a slow sip, then turned back around. This time she looked at me differently. Less like I was trouble. More like I was a door she'd locked years ago and suddenly wasn't sure why. I hate how young you are, she said. I hate how much you hide. She looked at me for a long time. No movement. No breath. Then she stepped forward. Just one step. Would it ruin you? She asked. If I let this happen? I didn't answer. I didn't move. She was close now. The space between us was heavy, like the air was waiting for one of us to crack. Say something, she whispered. I did, but not out loud. I just reached up, not touching, and stopped half an inch from her jaw. Close enough that she could feel it. Close enough that I could see her eyes darken. Just slightly, with the weight of it all. She didn't lean in, but she didn't pull away. She just asked, barely audible. I don't know if I would have said yes. She didn't give me the chance. Before I could move, her phone buzzed on the counter. Just once, the screen lit up with a name I recognized instantly. Ian. I froze. She didn't. She snatched the phone up and stepped away like I'd suddenly grown dangerous. She turned her back to answer. Hey, yeah, no, I'm fine. Just having dinner. You? I stared at the back of her neck. A small mole I hadn't noticed before, just below her hairline. That tiny human detail, it grounded me. Reminded me this wasn't a dream. This was real. She hung up a minute later and didn't look at me right away. She set the phone down carefully, screen side down. Then she turned. Ian's coming by, she said. He's dropping something off. Said he'll be here in 20. I nodded, jaw tight. Right? She looked at me like she wanted to say something else, but didn't. I grabbed my jacket from the chair. I should go. Wait. She stepped toward me. Don't leave like this. Like what? Like we didn't almost. We didn't. I cut in. She flinched, like I'd slapped her. A beat passed. Then she said something I didn't expect. I knew your mom. My hand froze on the doorknob. What? She hesitated, bit her lip. I knew her. Years ago. Before she passed. We weren't close, not really, but she was kind to me when I wasn't sure I deserved it. I was pregnant. Alone. 19. Your mom used to bring me groceries when no one else did. I turned, slowly. Why didn't you say anything? Because I didn't connect it right away. You said your mom's name once? I didn't even realize it until I saw that photo on your Instagram last month. The one at her grave. It hit me like a punch. She paused. Her voice dropped lower. I didn't want you to think that's why I kept talking to you. Something shifted in me. Something old, buried. My throat tightened. She was good at seeing people, I said. She was. A strange quiet settled between us. Grief threaded in with something else. Maybe that's why this feels. I didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. She crossed her arms, protective but vulnerable. You look like her sometimes. When you concentrate. I closed my eyes. This wasn't just about attraction anymore. It wasn't even about age. It was about history. Shared loss. Echoes we hadn't named. I wasn't supposed to be here tonight, I said finally. Ian was gonna do this himself. She gave a breath of a laugh. He bailed. Again, I said. Again, she echoed. We both smiled, but it didn't last. The front door stayed closed, but we could both feel the time ticking down, the inevitability of interruption. She stepped closer again, slower this time, like she was crossing a line not with her body, but with her past. Do you think she'd hate me for this? She whispered. I didn't answer. I just reached for her hand. And this time, she didn't pull away. We didn't kiss. Not then. We just stood there, palms pressed, like something sacred would break if we moved too fast. Her fingers were cold, mine were shaking. And the silence between us? It was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. I should tell him not to come, she murmured. You could, I said. But you won't. She didn't argue. I looked at her, really looked. She wasn't the woman I'd imagined at that barbecue. She wasn't a fantasy anymore. She was someone tired, complicated, brave in all the wrong ways, and still soft in ways she hated. And I wasn't just the kid with a crush. I don't want to ruin you, she whispered. You're not. I mean emotionally. I smiled, but it hurt. Little late for that. Her eyes filled. Not tears, but something wetter. Guilt maybe. Memory. The weight of too many quiet years. I tried so hard not to like you. You failed. I know, she said, almost laughing. Then the laughter disappeared. You have so much ahead of you. I don't want to be a detour. You're not. I don't want to be a mistake. You couldn't be, I said. She pulled her hand back, gently, and for a second I thought that was it. But then she cupped my face. Lightly, like she was afraid of the damage she could do, and just looked at me. Why now? She asked. What do you mean? Why did this happen now? Why not years from now when the timing made sense? Because we wouldn't be the same people years from now, I said. And maybe we're only brave enough to want this now when it's messy, when it scares the hell out of us. A long breath left her lips. Her forehead pressed to mine. I don't know how to do this right. Then don't. Just do it honestly. A car door slammed outside. We both flinched. She didn't move. Neither did I. A beat. Then she kissed my cheek. Not quick, not maternal. Just close. Honest. If he walks in and sees you here, everything changes. I nodded. I know. So, I picked up my jacket again, but not to leave. I draped it over a chair, and I sat down. I'm not hiding, I said. Not from him. Not from this. She didn't smile, but something in her cracked, in a quiet way. And then, for the first time all night, she looked relieved. A key turned in the front door, and we stayed exactly where we were. Ian did walk in, and yeah, his eyes flicked between us. Her standing by the kitchen counter. Me at the table, my jacket slung casually on the back of a chair I wasn't supposed to be sitting in. He didn't say anything at first. Just a raised eyebrow, a quick look at the wine glasses, then back to her. You okay? She nodded. Yeah. He turned to me. You good? Yeah. It was the least dramatic version of discovery possible. But the tension lived under the floorboards. He dropped off the box he came with, some tools she'd asked for months ago and forgotten, and left without asking questions. But the silence he left behind sat with us like a third person. Still, we didn't break. We didn't rush toward anything, either. That was 5 months ago. I didn't move in. I didn't tell Ian. I didn't post her on Instagram with some stupid caption like age is just a number. What we did do was slower. Not perfect. Human. She called me when she had a bad day. I sent her photos of little things I saw. Light through trees, my dog laying upside down. A latte that looked like a ghost in the foam. She started opening the curtains more. She laughed more often. And sometimes, I caught her watching me the way I used to watch her. Like she didn't quite know how it happened, but couldn't stop staring now that it had. She told me once, in bed with her hair spread out like some soft armor. I didn't think I'd feel again. Not like this. I didn't answer. I just kissed her shoulder and stayed still. Some things don't need a reply. A few weeks ago, I passed that old porch. The steps I'd fixed were weathering now, gray at the edges, still sturdy. I thought about how I met her. Not through fate, not through some perfect moment. Just because someone forgot to show up and I said yes. Funny how much life can change because of a busted stare and a glass of sour lemonade. People think love is supposed to arrive clean. At the right time with the right person tied in a bow. But sometimes love is crooked, badly timed, wrapped in grief and guilt and 30 years of, this isn't how it's supposed to look. And sometimes, love survives anyway. Not because it's easy, but because you stop running. Did you enjoy the story? Which part hit you the hardest? The silence, the confession, or the final decision? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? Age gap love, forbidden romance, or something totally unexpected?